Richmond's mayor says the Cowichan ruling may well be one of the most consequential in Canadian history. And he said that decision by the BC Supreme Court to give the Cowichan Tribes land rights in the city is one of the most consequential, and hundreds of people and their property could be affected by the ruling, which is based on the claim that distant ancestors of Cowichan once fished in that area, and that now forms part of the greater Vancouver area city. And he's really blowing the whistle on this. And I asked Brenda Bailey, the finance minister of BC, we talked about capital investment in British Columbia. I said, how can capital invest in BC if this big uncertainty hangs over them? And they instructed, according to that lawyer, they instructed the lawyers not to argue extinguishment on private lands. And I think this thing has turned into a bigger mess. They say they're appealing it, but I think they created this mess, and now they have no idea how to put it back in a box.
Yeah, because they don't want to say the obvious, because that would destroy their image of, being the pro-reconciliation party, I guess. Their idea of what reconciliation looks like.
And then John Rustad has come out and saying that he has a choice. He needs to stand up for private property rights or continue to sow division, distrust. And then he's because there's a lot, and this is what I talked about that Jeff Moyse, and I've asked for another interview here. We're going to talk about Haida Gwaii, that decision. He says a lot of these discussions are happening behind closed doors, and they just present it to the public after it's done. So with little input from the people of the province. And, he's saying before this thing gets too far down the road where we've given away most of the province, that it should be a part of a public process as opposed to just something done behind closed doors. And Eleanor Sturko coming out as well. She was the one that was booted from the party by John Rustad recently, a very strong voice for that party. She's also calling for property that justifiably concerned by that recent decision. This thing, it just seems, you and I, we were talking about, we've done interviews on this, several of them actually. There's a couple of really good interviews with Jeff Moyse that really explain this. And it's just starting to heat up now, though, and we did those a couple of weeks ago, right? But this thing is starting to percolate at a very high level here. We got a copy of the letter that the mayor sent out there. You want to put that copy of that letter up? I think it's the next one there. No, the next one. And then I guess there's a map. I don't have the map, but it says, given the serious implications of this court decision pending appeal, the city is hosting an information session to be held October 28th at 7 p.m. at the Richmond City Hall. So I imagine that's going to be packed. Imagine that will be a packed house.
Yeah, you would think so, wouldn't you? Surely even the people that aren't inside of the green square on that map, they have to see which way the wind is blowing.
If you go back and watch
start to defend themselves.
You can go back and you can search Jeff Moyse. You can go watch that interview I did with him. Basically, those lands that the court awarded title or co-title or whatever they want to call it on these lands have a cloud over them, like they're be impossible to sell. Like who would buy them? And it includes private land. And there's also land that has, I think it's a Walmart on there and a couple other stores, and then some City of Richmond lands as well. It's about 780 acres, I believe.
And
so far.
The mayor
and there's more of these cases. There's more of these cases before the courts right now.
Yeah. But the mayor's come out and he said, I'm pretty confident that this will be all right. I've heard a few people say that. Like, I'm confident this will get sorted out through the courts. But the problem is, it's going to be years because the courts operate so slowly. The Supreme Court won't even hear it, according to Jeff, until this, completes its process here in the BC Supreme Court, which could take years still, right? Like this could be 5 to 7 years before the Supreme Court of Canada even hears this case, because right now they would refuse to hear it, he said, because it hasn't gone all the way through. Yeah, I would be very interested to learn the sale price of properties within that area over the next few years while this hangs over.
Well, the ones that are already like in this decision would be almost impossible to sell. You'd have to be a fool to buy it. Unless you just had loads of money lying around and you were very confident that the and they give you
Supreme
10 cents
Court
on the
was going to
dollar or
rule
something
in
like
favor
that.
of fee simple.
But I've talked to developers as well, and they said that, like they will take their money where there's certainty, and it isn't in British Columbia right now. And this is what we're seeing over and over. And I asked those same questions of Brenda Bailey. And I don't know if they know how to answer the question. It's a good interview, too. Go watch that interview with Brenda Bailey. It's a really good interview. That was an interview we begged for, begged and begged and begged and begged, and we asked for 30 minutes, and then we ended up getting, I think, 12 minutes. But here's this poll, though. As bad as the NDP is doing with decriminalization, healthcare, man, we could make a list and we could go all day long, right? Investment in British Columbia, all these things. John Rustad has made it easy for David Eby. But even the BC Greens at 8%. And then that one, BC, Emily Lone, the 25-year-old there, we're trying to get an interview with her as well. But she wants to obliterate billionaires. So Jimmy Pattison, you better pack up, buddy. Well, you still can pack a suitcase.
Dallas, they've had higher than that, though, haven't they? They've had considerably more vote share than that in the past, the BC Greens.
Dallas Brodie pulling up the bottom of that there, right?
But yeah, remarkable. Centre BC, I'm convinced that 3% is just because of the word centre. But like we were just talking there, weren't we? Just talking about this dark shadow cast over Richmond. It's not just Richmond, is it? It's British Columbia. This
Correct. Dark
shadow caused by uncertain property rights. And that stems from what they call reconciliation, which is, this attempt to create a modern country and all the rest of it and reconcile with the indigenous populations. But the truth is, obviously BC is particularly vulnerable because of the treaty situation, but this is across Canada as well. You have to look not just at the worst.
According to Jeff, BC is kind of like in the worst shape. Like lots of Alberta, there was treaties signed already. There was the BC doesn't have a lot of treaties on the land, but part of I think again go watch that interview. Part of northeastern BC has some treaties, but most of BC didn't have that. Well, a lot of Alberta has treaties in that were signed, so all those land claims are settled.
But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is, yeah, there are the treaties, there is that legal point, but there's also, laws are made by people ultimately. They don't come from the sky, no. And you create laws based on, what predominates philosophically among the people. And just to go back to Centre BC, a lot of people are going to look at things like the fact that their staff have very senior staff have land acknowledgements in their signatures when they send you emails. Right. They're going to look at things like that and they're going to, they're going to maybe say, are you really centrist? Because obviously that attitude of land acknowledgements, I know it's a tiny thing, it's futile. Lots of people like to joke about how stupid it is. But that sort of contributes to the overall culture in a society. And eventually it is possible to go from there to a situation where you literally do give the land to certain tribes rather than just acknowledge that they have some sort of ancestral claim to it. That's the natural next step, isn't it?
Apparently Nova Scotia also has a lot of that land up for...
yeah, I've heard a lot about them.
Yeah, so again, a good interview to go watch, and Jeff Moyse will come back on. He's had lots of experience. He worked 31 years with Aboriginal law in the BC government through different parties, and also now 2 years on his own as legal counsel. But again, we look at this lead here for David Eby. Maybe he calls an election, because right now he's still beholding to the Green Party there. And, they're trying to sell this LNG now. Apparently they got religion on LNG and they feel it's great, but the Green Party not buying into that religion and kind of holding his feet to the fire on that one.